Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to talk about Millennial Potash. Do I move this forward? So we started with this project relatively recently. We started trading under the name of Millennial Potash in February. And this project is in Gabon. It's a previously explored potash project. So this slide actually captures or encapsulates all the major points why we really like this project, why we started with this project. First, we're going to earn up to 100% of this project. It has been explored in the past. Previous exploration intersected very thick, very high-grade potash seams. So all we need to do is actually reconfirm and then expand this. It is in Gabon, one of the best jurisdictions, we believe, in Africa, one of the most stable countries, and it is at a good location within Gabon as well, along the coast. The team that we've put together has been in potash before. We've obviously done quite a few other projects you will see later on, but there have been two major potash M&A transactions in the last 15 years, and we've built and sold both of these companies. So we know potash quite well. Potash sector itself, it's not as hot as lithium, but we think it's going to be robust for the next 3 to 5 years, and that's the window within which we usually develop these projects. And we'll put together a very ambitious development plan. We hope that we'll be able to get the maiden resource estimate out by September, October, and then PEA probably completed by the end of the year, maybe early next year. So a little bit about the team. The most recent project we did was a lithium project in Argentina, also called Millennial. Took it from about $40 million market cap to about $490 million last year. We sold it to Lithium Americas. We had a bidding war between Ganfeng, CATL, and Lithium Americas. Lithium Americas outbid them. We sold the company. Before that, we were involved with another potash company called Lana Potash, the same model. We developed it, sold it to an Israeli firm. And before that, another potash company called Potash One in Saskatchewan, Canada. So the same model, the same approach here. As you can see, this is heavily potash-oriented board and management team. And believe it or not, we've been together for almost 17 years. So it's very rare in this business with the same team. So potash sector, in a few words, has had two major shocks to the system. First, COVID. The price jumped about $900 per ton. It's come down since then. The second one, of course, was the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Belarus and Russia are largest together producer of potash, about 30-35% of the world's supply of potash from those two countries. Belarusian potash was singled out by the EU. For some reason, not Russian, but Belarusian potash, so it got sanctioned. I mean, some of it is still coming out, I'm sure, under the guise of Russian potash, but officially it is under sanctions. Gabon, it is, again, it's an oil and gas country, relatively small population, 5 million people, has been stable both politically and economically for the last 3 decades. Again, heavily reliant on oil and gas, hence very high GDP per capita. They've been trying to diversify away from oil and gas or revise their mining laws about 4 years ago and started attracting quite a bit of FDI straight into the mining sector. I'll show you a few pictures here. These are from previous exploration campaigns, not from us. We haven't started drilling yet, but you can see all these drill cores, and some of you guys are geologists, I know. You can visually identify potash seams right there. All the red stuff is potash. So we have all these drill cores intact on site. We've already sent the pulp for a reinterpretation or reanalysis, so we'll be putting out those results as well as we go forward with our own drill campaign. So let me tell you what has actually taken place there in terms of exploration programs in the past. You can see we have a very large project area, about 1,200 square kilometers. But the exploration took place basically in the southern quadrant. You can see on the inset map right there. In the 1970s, a French oil and gas company sank about 5 holes, obviously looking for oil and gas. They went down to about 1,200 meters, didn't find any oil and gas, but they intersected very thick potash horizons. Fast forward to 2017, 2018, an Australian junior came to the area, and 20 kilometers to the northwest, they drilled 3 holes targeting potash specifically, and at a shallow depth of about 230 meters, they started intersecting very good potash seams, and I'll show you on the next slide momentarily. But interestingly, based on just those 3 holes, in other words, not taking into consideration any seismic work which was done later on, or obviously historical holes, they put out a JORC-compliant resource estimate of about 1.7 billion tons at 16% KCl. So we knew that, before getting involved, that there's plenty of resource in the ground. It's not a moose pasture. It's not a binary situation. The question is how big it is, where exactly it is, and exactly where we're going to start actually mining this in the north or south. So just to show you stratigraphy here, you can see the deeper holes. Again, this is hydrocarbon well, 1,200 meters. And all the green layers, this is all potash horizon. So very thick. We're talking about 70 to 80 meters in total thickness. And on the next slide, I'll explain why that is very important for us. And you can see 20 kilometers away, those 3 shallow holes. Again, they didn't go deep enough. Our geologists think that it would drill down to about 700, 800 meters potentially, we could actually intersect some of these potash cycles that were found in the south as well. So again, we think this is going to have a significant upside potential, also based on a couple of other things that I'll talk momentarily. Now, we are planning to do solution mining here. We're quite well familiar with solution mining technology. Both our previous projects were amenable to solution mining. There are 3 major mines operating in Saskatchewan, Canada, all using solution mining. There's one in Germany. The project that we developed and sold to a German company called K+S, they actually built that project, and now they're currently producing 2.2 million tons of potash per year using solution mining. So well-proven technology. The reason we like it, actually, I should say there's 2 reasons that we like it. One, it keeps your capex low and manageable. And the second thing, a lot of people kind of disregard it, unfortunately, is that it has a minimal environmental impact, meaning that your permitting process is actually truncated or expedited, whichever way you want to put it, because you don't basically, you don't excavate, you don't move earth, you don't sink a shaft or anything like that. So it is very important for us as well. Now, before I go further, I mentioned the thickness. So 70, 80 meter thickness translates into a very low operating cost, meaning that we can actually have 1 or 2 very large caverns operating for 10, 15 years, producing, let's say, 500,000 to 1 million tons a year, which is incredible. So your operating costs will be minimal because of the thickness of potash layers here. So a few pictures. Again, this is what we're doing now. We're mobilizing, we're building the camp. We've ordered a drill rig that should arrive in the second half of this month. As soon as it gets to the site, we'll start drilling in the northern part of the project, the shallow depths first. So this is a 2D seismic that was shot over the area a few years back, and we reinterpreted it recently, and it gives us incredible data in terms of what is in the ground, in terms of the continuity of this West African potash basin extending all the way into Gabon. And what we found is that the thickness of salt sequence, a salt sequence basically evaporates sequence that contains potash cycles or potash horizons, is about 400 meters in the north and all the way to up to 800 meters in the south. So we're talking about probably 10 potash seams in the south, basically the same potash geology that is in the Republic of Congo, that is obviously a lot more explored and better known than Gabon, that all of that actually extends into Gabon. So, and also bear in mind this the presence of the salt sequence is over 300 square kilometer area, so it's quite large. Now, a few words about potash industry. I mentioned Russia and Belarus, but just for your kind of a general insight as to what's happening in the market, you can imagine that there's plenty of potash in the world, but it is highly geographically concentrated. So I would say probably 85% of the world's supply of potash comes from the northern hemisphere. Saskatchewan, the province in Canada, is one of the largest, probably the largest potash producer in the world, followed by Russia and Belarus. There's substantial production coming out of Germany. Then the Middle East, it's mostly Israelis and Jordanians producing from the Dead Sea. A little bit of production coming out of Chile, which is a byproduct of SQM's lithium production, which I think actually they put it on hold now. And a bit coming out of Utah, and a little bit out of Spain, Western China, and Laos. That's about it. And the rest of the world obviously uses potash. So you can imagine less than a dozen producers in the world. And the rest of the world imports potash. The largest potash importer is Brazil, 12 million tons a year, followed by the US and China, 10 million tons each. And then India, 4 to 5 million tons. Now, the reason I'm talking about here is that we will have another advantage over many other current producers and potential producers down the road because of the proximity to our end market. So we're going to be the nearest producer once in production, of course, to Brazil, the largest importer of potash, and then nearer or closer to India and China than most of the producers in the northern hemisphere. And we're going to be equidistant to the eastern seaboard of the United States compared to European and Middle Eastern producers as well. Believe it or not, the eastern U.S. actually imports its potash not from Saskatchewan, but from Europe and from the Middle East, until recently, obviously, from Russia and Belarus. So that's another potential market for us down the road. Now, Going back to our development plan, so we started mobilization effort already, and as I mentioned, we've ordered the the rig. It's being shipped as we speak. The plan is to drill the northern part, the one that I showed you on the map first, against the lowest hanging fruit, the shallowest part, and put out the maiden resource estimate by September, October. And the reason for that is, frankly, we don't want to be spending 8 to 12 months just drilling without any kind of news flow. So that will give us a pretty good idea as to what we have in the northern part of the project, and will be plenty for us to start a preliminary economic assessment. So while we're doing PEA after the maiden resource estimate, we'll move the drill rig down to the south, start drilling the deeper horizons there, and we're planning to finish the PEA by the end of the year or by early next year. And then they will put out the expanded or revised resource estimate by the end of the first quarter of next year. So by then, we'll have a pretty good understanding of what kind of resource we have in the ground, but also we'll have hopefully robust economics attached to the whole resource. And then obviously, if we're happy with the results of both, we'll go straight into the feasibility study. We usually don't do pre-feas unless there are some issues that we need to iron out. We go straight into the feasibility study after the PEA. We started trading, as I said, we resumed trading, I should say, under the new name, under the name of Millennial Potash in February. And as soon as we started trading, we got quite a bit of inbound demand. We didn't, frankly, solicit any funds. So we thought we'd do a quick $2 million raise, but the demand was higher than that, so we upsized it to $3.5 million. We raised that capital. So we have enough now to proceed with the plans that I listed earlier. We have obviously some warrants that when they get exercised, that will bring another $6 million into the company. That will again allow us to continue with our programs. And the management and the board, as you can see, own about 40% of the stock. So that's the story, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, again, previously explored project. It's a good jurisdiction. We put together the same team that has delivered in the past, and we think that it ticks all the boxes that will allow us to turn this into another success story, hopefully in the next 12 to 24 months. But thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Go ahead, Paul.
Do you foresee you'll be producing MLP?
Yeah, Paul, it's going to be MLP for sure. Yeah, that's basically we're planning to produce a K60. Yep. So standard product. Yep. Okay, thanks. Yep.